5 children. I was number 1. I had to look after all the others, of course. There was me, then brother Claude, sister Laurel, then Robert, and then Marion. She did all the cooking and the washing, and there wasn't a finer washer than my mum. I could never get my clothes like it. And she washed in the wash house with a scrubbing board. Must have been murder to the clothes, really. Murder. And a big old scrubbing brush. Oh, they sang. They all had their days. Some would wash on Mondays. And they had a big old stone copper. Used to get rid of all your old rubbish. Old boots used to make the copper sing.
It was a long day, from dawn to dusk, absolutely. There was no restrictions in those days on how many hours you worked. You just did what you were told to do, and that was the job. And if you didn't take what you thought was unfair, the injustice of it, the injustice to the poorer classes was downright disgraceful as I see it now. Of course, what they did, my father and many others, they took the jobs for the simple reason that the capitalists were more or less Tories. And if you didn't take the job, you got nothing to live on. What a blessing it was when the unions really began to come into their own, to get the rights of the working people that they were justly entitled. So this here, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir, and bowing and scraping was all wrong. Entirely wrong.
Links, all which winks, the fat begins to cry. Nobody at home but jumping alone, father, mother and I. Stick, stock, stone, dead. Blind man can't see. Every knave will have a slave. Your eyes.
My father was a countryman, really. He came from Appledore in Kent. So he thought nothing of walking over there and walking us kids over there with him, you know. So we were always well supplied with vegetables. I never remember going hungry. I don't say there was a terrific lot of money, but we were never without. And we were always well fed and clothed. We seemed to be the only kids around St Leonard's that really ever had a holiday. You see, because being that Dad was on the railway, he used to have 4 free tickets a year. You could go anywhere on the South East Coast. So we used to have days here and days there, and then the rest of the time we'd either go to Appledore and stay with his sisters.
School, where the community centre is now at the side. That was the baby room, infant school. I was 3. Yeah, and they took my brother as well. And I was a year and 9 months older than him, so how old was he? He was able to come and go as well and sit with us. We had, what was a gallery, rows of seats.
When I went out, I had a string of little children with me, and I was only 8. We picked dandelion heads for a lady who lived in the cottage by us, and she used to make dandelion wine. I looked round to see all the children, and they were all there. And then I must have forgotten, and David was missing. And I thought, oh my God, he's in the pond. I don't know what made me think that. It was a nasty, deep pond, and I ran up, and there he was. And at that time, the boys were dressed like little girls, and he had a blue velvet coat on, and this blue velvet coat had spread out, keeping him up in the middle of the pond. I got him out and we went home, all the others screaming, and a young man walking by picked him up, and he must have spoilt his clothes. And down we went, and David's mum heard and came to the door, took one look and fainted. The young man didn't get thanked, and she said to me, "You naughty, wicked girl."
Crocheted hats. Nobody else had hats like us. Auntie knitted, and we had beautiful jumpers. I learned all that off my aunt, and she sat in her front room. Her front room I loved to get in there. It was black horsehair, black cushions with huge grey poppies embroidered on. It smelt lovely.
Half an hour ago before I became a civil servant. I remember the suffragettes. I remember them well. I remember the forced feeding. I was always someone who wanted something to change in those days. I liked the idea of women getting the vote, and I was horrified at the awful things they did to women. I think I was a bit young to take more than a passing interest in the suffragettes like that. I don't really think it was more than a passing interest. I don't remember when I started taking a violent interest in things, but at the time it took all your time to keep your job going, getting up, going backwards and forwards to work. I left home when I was about 21, I think, and went to live in the lodgings. It was a bit crowded at home. It was very unusual for anyone over 14 to be at school, especially for girls. It was all right for my brother to stay on, but girls didn't. I found out that one of the societies was looking for staff. I don't know if you know what a society is. It was before the National Health came in. The societies ran the service of insurance. The government took it over in 1918, I think. I can't quite remember. They were looking for staff and I got a job in one of their insurance companies. And by that time I was ashamed of myself. I must have been about 20, 21. I was ashamed of myself and I settled down to do some thinking and studying, and I studied insurance. I got a fellowship of the Faculty of Insurance, but that was before the government took over state insurance. We were taken over in 1921, I think.